Hi, my name is Jonathan Gelati, and this is my presentation on the Protestant Reformation. So, the Protestant Reformation was a European movement during the 16th and 17th centuries. The movement was to reform the practices and beliefs of the Roman Catholic Church. It's considered to have started when Martin Luther that is, wrote the 95 Theses in 1517. The Diet of Worms in 1521 was a formal assembly of the Holy Roman Empire, called by King Charles V. The assembly basically addressed Martin Luther and the 95 Theses that he wrote, which basically caused the Protestant Reformation. It was agreed that Luther could go home safely from the assembly, although in private it was understood that the assemblymen would agree that he would eventually have to be punished and get arrested. Although Martin Luther never ended up getting arrested because he received a lot of support from the German people in his pushes for change with the 95 Theses. His ideologies basically showed the door to many people. The peak years of the Protestant Reformation were between 1545 and 1620, even though it's believed to have started in the year of 1517. The image shows how Europe was conquered between the Lutherans, the Calvinists, the Anglicans, the Hussites, the Unitarians, and other Christian religious groups, like Eastern Orthodox Christians, for example, and Roman Catholics. As you can see, the Lutherans and other religious groups basically conquered most of Europe. This image here is a painting of Martin Luther nailing his 95 Theses to the door of his local church. This was a pretty iconic moment during that time in the 16th century. It caused a lot of uprising between various religious groups. The 95 Theses was basically 95 complaints about how the Catholic Church was corrupt. Luther believed that the Bible should be the religious authority, and at the time, it was a church that was a religious authority in the land of Europe. Although his beliefs and pushes for change impacted various Catholic religious frameworks back then and even today. The Protestant Reformation's progress was to transform religion. Not only was it a religious reformation, a religious movement I should say, but it was also political, social, and economic revolution. The movement also laid the framework for which a scientific revolution and the Enlightenment were built. The Reformation also lets the idea of skepticism, modern democracy, civil rights, individualism, capitalism, and other values that we use today. The Protestant Reformation also serves as a baseline creation for today's justice system. No one really stood up to the Catholic Church back then the way Luther did, because everyone was so scared of how of the backlash that they would receive from the Catholic Church. People would get killed, put to trial. So back then, the churches were basically selling indulgences, and that was the problem that Luther had with them. His pushes for change basically led to the establishment of laws dealing with social welfare, education, family, crime, and how the relations between the church and state were. From his pushes for change, new state laws were put in place in 1570 from the results of his work. Other societies back then also adopted the same laws as well. Luther believed the kingdoms should be working together to establish proper justice and order. Basically, some of the ways the U.S. justice system works comes from the characteristics of Luther's ideologies. And that's it.